Welcome to Perth in Western Australia. I'm here filming for Policing TV with first-class police constable Maggie Hamilton, who recently joined from Police Scotland. So, Maggie, thank you so much for joining us here on Policing TV. First of all, you served as a Police Scotland officer for 14 years, and then after 2 years in the recruitment process with Western Australia, you joined, I believe, Western Australia around 4 months ago. So, first of all, what led you to express interest 2 to 3 years ago in joining Western Australia Police?
I worked for a long time for Police Scotland, but unfortunately I wasn't really progressing in any way with Police Scotland. I did enjoy my response role with them, but it was very niche trying to get into any other kind of roles I was interested in, so I found myself in a bit of a rut. Personal life as well, I think I needed a bit of a challenge, shake things up a bit, change things. Hadn't really done anything extreme for a couple of years, so the opportunity came out for Western Australia Police, and initially I had an elderly dog, so side note, I didn't originally consider it because I knew he wouldn't have travelled, but then unfortunately in November 2022 he passed away, and I took that as my sign to put my application straight in without hesitation.
So you put in that application in November. You then had a period of time where the force Western Australia Police were considering your application. You were considering whether to pursue the application. What happened in that period between November 2022 and the point at which you flew over here?
There was a lot to do. Initially, obviously, application, interview. We had
a remote interview?
Yeah, with a panel via FaceTime or similar. We had a psychological Zoom interview. We had a psychological online assessment, a online assessment including problem solving, mathematics, basically testing, online testing. There was a fitness test that we had to pass, so I had to recruit a personal trainer to put me through the fitness test. A medical assessment, eye test, hearing test. I've probably forgotten something off the list, but it was extensive. There was a lot of hoops to jump through.
You jumped through the hoops. Western Australia made you an offer. Did you hesitate in accepting it?
I did not hesitate for a second in accepting the offer.
What about your situation personally with your family? You have family, I understand, back in Scotland. How does that work?
So all my family are in Scotland. I don't have any family in Australia. I waited until I was at the final stages of visa acceptance before I told them, simply because I didn't want to upset anybody, because I knew it would be upsetting for them. And it was. They were sad, but also I think not surprised because they know me.
So the right thing to do for you, your family supportive in your making this significant move. Now, what have you found since arriving then? First of all, how have Western Australia Police been in terms of helping you to get comfortable here? What have your colleagues been like in terms of making you feel welcome and a part of the team?
My colleagues, first of all, have been fantastic. I had a great team at the academy, a great squad at the academy, and I have a great team here at Perth. And honestly, that's half the battle. That makes it so much better, having good people around you that you can speak to and take advice from and things. So all good. Western Australia, obviously, they answer all your questions. We've got the TMS department at the academy who are there obviously particularly for support, and all the instructors at the academy were fantastic. They really tried to respect the fact that we were transitional officers and had experience behind us. Sometimes that slipped a little because they were used to dealing with new recruits, but they would quickly remind themselves that, oh wait, we've got officers with service here, and they handled it really well.
So 14 years in Police Scotland, that gives you a hell of a lot of experience. I think policing in southwest Scotland, in Glasgow, was it? Or what? Remind me and tell our Policing TV audience, where were you policing in Scotland?
I was policing in a place called Govan, which is quite a rough area of Glasgow, within the Greater Glasgow subdivision. It came with a lot of challenges, but that excited me. I enjoyed working in a busy area where there was lots of things going on. And
some real life experience and policing experience will have come from that 14 years for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've also done a secondment up in Oban, which was a remote area, but they have an influx of tourists during the summer. So I've also had the opportunity to police in Argyll and Bute as well.
So there are some similarities there. The urban challenge represented by Glasgow and now Perth here in Western Australia, some of the remoteness that comes with the Bute, with Oban and elsewhere, that is also represented by the remoteness of some of the geography here in Western Australia. I just want to turn now to the academy. So when you joined here, you had 14 weeks in the academy. I'm going to come to your equipment as part of this, because if I take the camera down here, you have a firearm here. Now, I believe you won't have had, unless you were a firearms officer, I don't think you were, a firearm when you were working in Police Scotland. So part of that academy time is teaching you how to carry and to deploy, if needed, a firearm. Tell us about that at the academy and what else you learnt at the academy.
During the academy, it was quite intense when we did firearms training. I actually didn't carry a taser either in Scotland.
So we have a taser. I'll just come down. We have a taser here. We'll come back to the equipment in a little bit.
We were doing taser and firearm training simultaneously within 3 weeks of the 13 that we did at the academy. So it was very intense, having never carried either before. I had no previous experience. We were obviously expected to, at the end of the 3 weeks, be capable to use a firearm. Understandably so. You don't want somebody out in the street with a firearm that's not qualified to use it. But in such a short period of time, it was quite hard going to make sure you were capable.
So you passed through the academy. You were then posted. We're stood very close to Perth City Centre Police Station. You've been posted here. You've participated in, and I've observed the briefing that you've had this morning. We're keeping you from your work with a new colleague of yours. You'll be patrolling here. What, in your experience so far, are some of the key differences and perhaps similarities in the work that you did in Scotland and the work you're doing here in Perth, Western Australia?
Policing is the same, just on the other side of the world. I couldn't be more happy to be back in the job, that I know what I'm doing when I'm out on the street. The academy was a completely different ballgame, but now that I'm back in, it's just the same job. The differences are procedurally and paperwork. There are massive differences. I do find that Western Australia have, I would say, more convoluted ways of doing the paperwork and the kind of procedures when I know and I'm used to a different way. So that's a frustration I will get my head around once I get used to. But it's just the policing aspect, being out on the street, boots on the ground, it's the same job.
Well, it's interesting you say about the administrative elements of being something that you were more comfortable with back in Police Scotland. Maybe there's something there for Western Australia Police to look at in terms of streamlining some of the processes. But let's park that then for the moment. So there are some challenges associated with the move. You've mentioned the administrative ones. There are also some significant upsides. What are your major upsides then from now being here, living and working in Perth and within Western Australia?
Western Australia police are treated a lot better than police in Britain. I think that's a lot to do with budget. And I think it's probably a lot to do with the weather as well, because as we all know, the sunshine makes people a lot happier. The issues are exactly the same. Issues with drugs, issues with alcohol, disturbance, domestic abuse. So that's something, having dealt with it in Scotland for so long, I know how to deal with it, and you can get the job done. And like the quality of life, that just trumps absolutely everything. You're better looked after here in your work. The offices, the standard of the kit, the standard of the equipment is much higher, which obviously makes things a lot more pleasant. And it's a better place to be overall.
You mentioned, and we'll come to a close in a moment or two, but you mentioned there the equipment. You've got quite a bit on your vest there. So just take us through what you have
Sure.
on your vest and just highlight the things that perhaps are a little different.
Certainly. First thing I'll mention is body-worn camera. My English colleagues did use body-worn, but in Scotland we didn't. It was trialled, but we didn't have it day to day. So that's something that's new for me. It's a very useful tool. I swear quite a lot though, so I could potentially get myself in trouble with it, but I'm trying to rein myself in. We have these radios. Now, I have to say Western Australia Police, they're not great. We had smaller, more compact radios in Scotland that were much better to carry, shall we say. These are actually new ones, would you believe, and they didn't get much smaller than the previous ones. So, sorry, WA Police, but the radios are too big. We have OC spray, obviously a mag for your, sorry, that's the OC spray, mag for your firearm, baton, which I did carry at home. I also had a Pava spray similar to OC. Obviously, Glock, taser. This is a pouch for notebook, and we have obviously the smartphone, which has a lot of technology on it. In fact, more technology on the smartphones than we used to have back in Scotland. So the things you can do with it are vastly improved compared to what we had back home. And I think that's everything. Yeah.
So would this be something, would a career move to Western Australia Police be something that you would recommend to former colleagues and to others in policing?
I would definitely recommend the move. If they're like me and they're finding that they're just treading water with Police Scotland, then give yourself a challenge, shake it up a bit, go and try something new. I don't do well academically, but I managed to get through the 13 weeks at the academy, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. And the job is the same job. You've just got to learn new procedures, but as I says, take the challenge on. It's the same job, and if you're a capable police officer, you'll get on fine.
First Class Constable Maggie Hamilton, now of Western Australia Police. Thank you so much for talking to me and to Policing TV, and very best wishes to you for your career over the next several years with Western Australia Police.
Thank you very much.